The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon, casting a soft golden glow across the manicured lawns of Pinewood Gardens, a quintessential suburban neighborhood in Ohio where every house looked like it had been stamped from the same mold. My name is Marcus Holloway, and at 45 years old, I've spent the last 22 years as an electrician, troubleshooting everything from faulty wiring in old Victorian homes to installing state-of-the-art smart systems in modern builds. Life had thrown me a curveball recently, a divorce that left me fighting tooth and nail for joint custody of my two teenagers, Emma, who at 16 was navigating the choppy waters of high school drama, and Tyler, 14, with his endless energy for video games and skateboarding. 3 years ago, right after the ink dried on those divorce papers, I bought this corner lot house, thinking it would be our fresh start. The kids would have their own rooms, the schools were top-notch, and the streets felt safe enough to let them roam without constant worry. Little did I know that this idyllic setting hit a thorn in its side, named Brenda Whitmore. Brenda was a 52-year-old widow who had moved into the neighborhood around the same time as me, after her husband passed away. She drove this ostentatious pearl-white Cadillac Escalade that seemed comically oversized for our narrow streets, like a yacht trying to navigate a creek. Retired from managing a downtown bank, she had no kids and apparently plenty of time on her hands. She had somehow appointed herself the neighborhood's compliance officer, a title that, as I later discovered, wasn't even mentioned in our HOA bylaws. Brenda knew every rule by heart. From the exact height your grass should be, 2.5 inches, no more, no less, to the 3 approved colors for mailboxes. She was thick as thieves with the HOA president, Gerald Thornfield, a stuffy retiree who seemed more interested in his golf game than actual governance. This alliance made her feel untouchable, like she held the keys to the kingdom. Geography played a cruel role in our impending feud. My corner lot meant that for trash pickup every Tuesday, I had to place my bin right near the street, within 3 feet of the curb as per city ordinance. This positioned it perfectly in the path of Brenda's daily power walk, which she took at precisely 6:15 a.m. without fail. The first incident unfolded on a crisp September morning, the second week of the school year. I was inside, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the kitchen as I packed lunches for the kids. Emma was upstairs, blasting her playlist while getting ready, and Tyler was still half asleep at the breakfast table, munching on cereal. The garbage truck's diesel rumble was still about 20 minutes away when I heard it, a sharp crack that echoed like a gunshot through the quiet dawn. I bolted outside in my pajamas, heart pounding, only to find my trash can shattered into pieces, garbage scattered across the driveway like the aftermath of a wild party, banana peels, coffee grounds, soggy cereal boxes, and crumpled papers everywhere. The pearl-white Escalade was backing up slowly, and Brenda rolled down her window with an expression that screamed feigned concern. "Oh my," she said, her voice dripping with insincerity. "These streets are just so narrow. I hope you weren't too attached to that old thing." Old thing? I'd just bought it the week before for $23 at Home Depot. I bit my tongue, assuming it was an accident, and spent the next 20 minutes on my hands and knees, picking up the mess while the cool morning air nipped at my skin and the scent of diesel exhaust lingered. Emma and Tyler watched from the front window, their faces pressed against the glass, a mix of embarrassment and curiosity in their eyes. But that was just the beginning. By the end of that first week, it happened 3 more times, each at 6:15 sharp, the rumble of her engine approaching like a predator, followed by the sickening crunch of plastic meeting steel, and then silence as she drove away without a backward glance. By Friday, suspicion crept in like fog rolling over the neighborhood. I started piecing it together. The precise timing, the unnecessary route she took. The following Tuesday confirmed it. Mrs. Olivia, my kind elderly neighbor from across the street, whose English was careful and accented from her years in Columbia, pulled me aside one afternoon while I was mowing the lawn. The scent of fresh-cut grass filled the air as she leaned over her white picket fence, her hands clasped tightly. "She takes the long way around on purpose," she confided, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "Plenty of room on the other side, but she drives close to your can every time. It's not right, Marcus." I decided to confront her civilly. I caught Brenda on the sidewalk during one of her afternoon patrols, clipboard in hand, scanning yards like a hawk. The sun was high, casting harsh shadows, and the distant hum of lawnmowers provided a suburban soundtrack. "Hey, Brenda," about the trash can situation, I started trying to keep my tone neutral, but she interrupted with that saccharine smile, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Marcus, I understand you're new to community living," she said, as if explaining to a child. "These streets were designed for normal-sized vehicles, not oversized containers blocking traffic flow. Perhaps you should consider placement timing adjustments." Placement timing adjustments? As if there was some magical window where the garbage truck could pick up an invisible bin. Her words hung in the air, laced with condescension, and I felt a spark of anger ignite. That night, after tucking the kids into bed, Emma complaining about algebra homework, Tyler excited about a new game, I retreated to my home office, the room dimly lit by a desk lamp. The house was quiet except for the occasional creak of settling wood. I started researching property rights, HOA bylaws, municipal ordinances. I learned that trash cans placed on the public right-of-way still constituted personal property, protected under law. More importantly, our HOA had no specific rules about placement, timing, or materials. The only stipulation was that they couldn't be visible from the street except on collection day. The glow of my computer screen illuminated my face as I scrolled through forums and legal sites, my mind racing with possibilities. By the end of the month, I had replaced 4 trash cans, shelling out $92 in total. The financial hit wasn't huge, but the emotional toll was mounting. The kids were getting stressed about the daily drama. Emma would roll her eyes and say, "Dad, why does she hate us?" While Tyler tried to make light of it, joking about setting up a trash can obstacle course. My custody evaluator, a stern woman named Ms. Hargrove, was taking notes about neighborhood stability issues. During our sessions, her pen scratching across her notepad like an accusation. Something had to change. That's when I noticed a smirk. Brenda began making direct eye contact during her morning runs, a little satisfied smile that said she knew exactly what she was doing and reveled in it. It was a declaration of war, subtle but clear. 2 weeks into October, Brenda escalated from mere property destruction to full-blown psychological warfare. I came home from a long day on a job site, my work boots caked in dust, muscles aching from hauling cables, to find a certified letter waiting on the doorstep. The envelope was thick, the paper luxurious under my fingers, and the faint smell of fresh printer ink made my stomach drop before I even opened it. Inside, in official legalese that screamed professionalism, it cited improper trash receptacle placement creating a traffic hazard under Section 4.7.3 of the HOA rules. No obstruction of vehicular traffic patterns. The deadline was 72 hours to remedy the violation or face $50 in daily fines. She'd obviously rushed this through the system, perhaps while the board was still recovering from my initial complaints at the last meeting. My years of troubleshooting electrical codes kicked in. When something doesn't add up, you dig deeper. That evening, after dinner, spaghetti with the kids, sauce splattered on the table as Tyler recounted his day. I dove into municipal law like I was hunting a short circuit. The kitchen light hummed softly as I pored over documents on my laptop, cross-referencing city ordinances with county regulations. After 3 hours, my eyes burning from screen glare, I hit the jackpot. The city code explicitly required trash placement within 3 feet of the curb on collection day. Moreover, HOA jurisdiction ended at the property line. They literally couldn't regulate the public right-of-way. I recalled reading about a similar case in California, where a homeowner beat their HOA using this exact argument. Excitement bubbled up. This was my counterpunch. I spent the weekend building my defense, like preparing for the electrical contractor's exam all over again. First, I installed a Ring doorbell camera, spending $47 for peace of mind, positioning it perfectly to capture the morning routine. The app's notifications buzzed on my phone as I tested it. Then, I hired a professional surveyor to confirm my placement complied with all city requirements. Lines marked in bright orange spray paint across the driveway. Even Mrs. Olivia provided a written statement, her handwriting neat but shaky as she signed in her living room, the scent of jasmine tea wafting from her thermos. "I don't want trouble," she whispered, her eyes darting to the window. "But this isn't right." Meanwhile, Brenda was playing social media prosecutor. She flooded the Nextdoor app with posts about reckless homeowners endangering children and dangerous corner obstacles forcing responsible drivers into oncoming traffic. The comments section became a battlefield. Her 3 loyal supporters chimed in with agreement, while others called her out for overreach. Then came the twist that showed her desperation. Dave, my buddy at City Hall who works in the permit office, we collaborated on electrical jobs before, called me Tuesday morning. His voice was amused over the phone line. Marcus, the city got 4 separate complaints about your dangerous corner, each from different witnesses. But the wording's identical, and they were all submitted within 15 minutes at 2:47 a.m. Either you've got an epidemic of insomniacs with the same writing style, or somebody's working overtime to build a case against you. By Thursday's board meeting, I compiled a folder thick enough to serve as a doorstop. The community center smelled like industrial carpet cleaner and stale coffee, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead as 12 homeowners, a record crowd, filed in. Gerald Thornfield nervously adjusted his tie every 30 seconds, his face flushed. Brenda sat at the board table in a navy blazer that screamed authority, but I noticed a slight tremor in her hands as she sipped water. When they called for old business, I stood, my heart steady from years of client presentations. I'd like to address the violation notice regarding trash can placement. The room went silent, the hum of the lights the only sound. I read the city ordinance aloud, word for word, projected my survey results on a borrowed screen, and casually mentioned my consultation with Amanda Sterling, who'd handled dozens of HOA cases. She found the selective enforcement patterns particularly interesting. I added, watching Brenda's face drain of color. Gerald cleared his throat 3 times before responding. Well, this requires further review. We'll table this matter pending additional consideration. Translation. They were backed into a corner. But Brenda wasn't one to concede gracefully. As we filed out into the parking lot, the air humid with October evening mist under the buzzing security lights, she cornered me. A dozen homeowners lingered nearby, chatting. You think you're so smart? She hissed, loud enough for all to hear. People like you come into decent neighborhoods and think rules don't apply. Well, I've got news for you. This is just the beginning. Mrs. Rodriguez gasped. Jim Torres, the maintenance guy, suddenly became fascinated with his keys. The racial undertones hung heavy, like smoke from a distant fire. My phone, tucked in my shirt pocket, captured every venomous syllable. That night, as I tucked Emma and Tyler into bed, their rooms filled with posters and gadgets, I promised everything would work out. But privately, in the quiet of my study, I calculated the cost of this war. 3 replacement trash cans, 14 hours of documentation, attorney consultation fees mounting. Yet something had shifted in the community. Whispers about board overreach spread. Questions about selective enforcement arose. Brenda's parking lot meltdown had peeled back the facade. This wasn't about traffic safety or standards. It was about power, control, and putting people like me in their place. The next morning, instead of her aggressive ram, she drove past slowly, studying my trash can like a general plotting an assault. The pattern was evolving, and bigger trouble loomed. November arrived in Pinewood Gardens like a cold slap, the leaves turning fiery shades of red and orange before crunching underfoot, and the air carrying the crisp scent of impending winter. Brenda's campaign against me intensified, transforming from sporadic destruction to a relentless barrage of petty violations. She had apparently spent weeks poring over the HOA bylaws like a lawyer prepping for a high-stakes trial, her knowledge of obscure rules weaponized against me. The assault came in waves, each notice delivered with the precision of a sniper. First was a grass height violation. My lawn measured at 2.75 inches, exceeding the maximum 2.5 inches by a criminal quarter inch. The notice arrived in my mailbox on a rainy afternoon, the envelope damp but the words inside sharp. $50 fine, 10-day deadline. I could almost picture Brenda out there with a ruler, kneeling in her sensible shoes, measuring blades of grass while neighbors peeked through curtains. Next came the mailbox color critique. Mine had faded from the approved heritage blue to what she deemed unauthorized weather navy due to 3 years of sun exposure. Another $50. Finally, 3 tiny tears on my window screens. Imperfections so minuscule you'd need a magnifying glass and a vendetta to spot them. Earned yet another citation. I spent an entire Saturday afternoon, the sky overcast and a light drizzle misting my face, walking the neighborhood with a measuring tape camera and notepad. The scent of wet earth mixed with chimney smoke from early fires as I documented identical violations on 14 other properties. Gerald Thornfield's own grass pushed 3 inches, unruly and unkempt. Mrs. Patterson's mailbox matched mine in its faded glory. Half the houses on Maple Street bore screen damage from a summer hailstorm, dense like battle scars. Yet, miraculously, only my home merited official scrutiny. The selective enforcement was blatant, a pattern that screamed discrimination. Over a steaming cup of coffee at Home Depot's contractor desk, the fluorescent lights buzzing like persistent flies, I confided in Dale Kowski. Dale, with 23 years pouring concrete, his face weathered like old leather, listened to my trash-can tales with a knowing grin. He stirred sugar into his coffee with a paint stick, the clink echoing softly. "You know," he said, his voice gravelly from years on job sites, "there's nothing in city code about what materials you can use for trash containers. Plastic, metal, concrete. As long as it holds garbage and fits the size requirements, you're golden." That conversation planted a seed, germinating into what would become Brenda's worst nightmare. I invested $47 in materials. 60-pound of concrete mix, steel rebar for reinforcement, and a clever modification to a standard plastic shell. The fines were mounting to $350, but this was my stand. Friday afternoon, with Emma and Tyler's help, we turned the garage into a makeshift workshop. Classic rock blared from my paint-splattered radio, the beats syncing with our mixing. Emma, her hands dusted in cement, laughed as she stirred. "Dad, this is like making a giant mud pie." Tyler, ever the engineer in training, suggested reinforcements. The alkaline scent of setting concrete filled the air, evoking memories of helping my dad pour our basement floor 30 years ago. Sweaty work in the summer sun, the satisfaction of creating something permanent. The design was simple yet ingenious. A hollow bottom for weight distribution, drainage holes for functionality, and an exterior that mimicked every other trash can on the block. From afar, it was unremarkable. Inside, it was a fortress. Monday morning, heart racing with anticipation, I positioned it at the curb. 6:15 arrived with a rumble of Brenda's engine. This time, her approach was cautious, slower, as if she sensed a trap. The first collision at 15 miles per hour produced a solid thunk, followed by the screech of metal on concrete. Her running board bent like aluminum foil. Mike remained steadfast, looking mildly offended. From the kitchen window, coffee mug warming my palms, I watched her sit stunned for 30 seconds before revving for another try. Same result. More damage to her pearl-white beast, 0 to my creation. The irony was delicious. Her aggression was self-destructive. Over the week, she persisted, each attempt adding scratches and dents, accumulating $800 in damage by Friday. Mike bore only scuff marks, enhancing its authenticity. The neighborhood buzzed. Kids gathered at bus stops to watch the demolition derby. Neighbors whispered over fences. But Brenda evolved into a full-blown investigator. Mrs. Olivia called one morning. Her voice would whisper over the phone. "Marcus, that woman was in your driveway last night with a flashlight and a scale. I watched from my window. She tried to weigh your trash can." I chuckled at the image. Brenda in her navy blazer, sneaking like a cartoon villain under moonlight. Her sleuthing intensified. Jim Torres mentioned her cornering him at the hardware store, quizzing about concrete buys. She stalked my social media for project hints. Thursday, a building inspector named Pete knocked, clipboard in hand, looking weary. "Complain about unauthorized concrete structures," he explained. After 30 seconds examining my can, he shook his head. "It's a garbage container, not a foundation. No permits needed. I've seen sheds built with less scrutiny." Brenda's next ploy, an HOA demand for property access to inspect modifications. My research into Fourth Amendment protections and cases like Narrett versus Lakeside Village armed me. I responded firmly, "No access without a court order." Analyzing her violation targets revealed a damning pattern. 67 notices in a year, 49 to single parents, elderly or minorities, only 18 to others. It reeked of Fair Housing Act violations. I filed a formal complaint, forcing equal enforcement or admission of targeting. Brenda's Escalade, now with $1,200 in damage. A dangling headlight, cracked bumper, became a joke. Emma's friends asked about the concreting lady. Tyler pondered selling tickets. Patricia Lopez's revelation over coffee at the community center. Brenda pushing for enforcement powers and odd contracts. Sparked my financial probe. Public Records unveiled Whitmore Construction LLC. Brenda as 40% owner, winning 7 HOA contracts worth $23,400, underbidding suspiciously. She voted on each undisclosed. This was embezzlement. My trash can had unwittingly threatened her scam. I compiled evidence, emailing Amanda Sterling. The power shifted. Justice loomed. Tuesday evening, my garage morphed into a strategic command center, the scent of oil and sawdust mingling with fresh coffee. I cleared workbenches, set up folding tables, and arranged mismatched chairs around an evidence board crafted from construction paper, red string connecting dots like a detective novel. The team assembled at 7 p.m. Mrs. Olivia first, thermos of jasmine tea in hand, her nervous determination evident. Jim Torres's maintenance uniform, tool belt jangling. Patricia Lopez with HOA financial docs. Dale Kowski last, donuts in tow, grinning like it was a party. All right, I said, taping the final timeline. Here's what we're dealing with. Evidence sprawled. $23,400 in contracts, 47 harassment incidents, a battered Escalade as proof. Patricia whistled at the financials. Dale assessed vehicle damage photos. $2,000 bumper fix, alignment issues. Our plan. Jim monitors retaliation. Mrs. Olivia coordinates door-to-door. Patricia builds board consensus. Dale consults on construction. Legal timing was key. Filed too soon. Evidence vanishes. Too late. Cover-up completes. From electrical troubleshooting, I knew layered solutions win. We hit 4 fronts. Legal lawsuits, complaints, social organizing petitions, political media oversight, financial audits, cancellations. Wednesday, armed with presentations, I canvassed homes. Responses overwhelmed. 89 signatures for rights, 34 for audits, 12 testimonies. Mrs. Rodriguez, once fined for early trash, signed vehemently, muttering in Spanish. Opposition mapped. Brenda's supporters were beneficiaries of leniency. Fence-sitters feared retaliation. Media prep took days. Channel 7 Sarah Kim, HOA scandal expert, received timelines, opinions, 12-minute collision video. The Facebook group surged in 94 members, sharing tales, Rose Bush finds, chalk art citations. A viral time-lapse with circus music spread. Brenda's desperation mounted. Spray paint move on Mykin washed off, camera caught. False gas complaint. Inspector found nothing. $200 per day surveillance. Emma overheard Brenda's racist, dangerous influences remarks impacting custody. I hired Beth Morrison for $200 per day to document stalking. Tyler found a $300 GPS tracker under my truck. Photograph. Reported to Officer Martinez. This is criminal surveillance harassment. Brenda's $3,200 road hazard claim denied. Fraud unit referred. Community pressure built. Group shared outrages. Gerald distanced himself. Saturday collision 57 detached her bumper. She crawled retrieving fragments. Neighbors watching. Evidence complete. Criminal docs. Statements notarized. Fraud exposed. Coalition ready. Monday emergency meeting. Brenda claimed terrorist threats. Waived fake forms. Timestamps betrayed. Insurance subpoenaed records. Richard called. $8,000 spent. Insurance canceled. What to make it go away? I refused. Crimes too grave. Hours before, fabricated restraining order dismissed. Edited recordings, staged photos, contempt warning. IRS got unreported income docs. At 6 p.m., center packed. 127 residents, media vans, tension palpable. Brenda in black, trembling, Gerald sweating. I presented not trash cans, corruption. Showed videos, tracker. $47,000 embezzlement. Crowd reacted. I confronted. $3,400 lawyers. Destroyed $60,000 vehicle. Stole from 127. Brenda erupted. Harassment. People like you ruin neighborhoods. Racist tones clear. Cameras rolling. She tore boards. Restrained. Patricia moved suspension. Unanimous. Martinez served warrant. Resignation Tuesday. Charges Thursday. Revocations Friday. Audit recovered $47,000. $170 refunds. $12,500 settlement. Brenda to Florida. Patricia president. Reforms implemented. Case precedent. Inspired act. Can display with plaque. Festival draws 800. Scholarship funds for students. Emma's essay. Tyler's channel. Custody improved. Business boomed. David beats Goliath with evidence. Allies concrete.